Hi, folks. Welcome to Neuromoms Collective. My name is Erin Palmer, and I am one of the co-hosts here. Myself and my co-host Amanda Ream recently had an opportunity to talk to her daughter, MacKenzie, who 9 years ago survived a traumatic brain injury. Um, and this is the third part of that conversation where we're going to discuss what it was like for MacKenzie to re-enter life as a young person when life had moved so fast for her friends, as well as some things that she wished that maybe her mom, her caregiver advocate, would have known and would have had access to while MacKenzie was in the early days of recovery. So please stick around and listen to this. And if you didn't listen to either of the first two episodes from our conversation with MacKenzie, the first one is really on like the importance of photography and documenting and making a place feel really comfortable when somebody is recovering from an injury. So that's worth checking out. And number two podcast, that was on making that person feel more comfortable when they're in a environment where they can't advocate for themselves. So we recommend that you listen to that as well. Thank you for being here. Lights on. One thing that we did for Dallas when he was in the worst of it is that we had photos of him at his best. Before doctors or nurses were allowed to interact with him, I made them look at Dallas at his best and say, this is who we're fighting for. We're not fighting for this body that is still alive, that doesn't really have anything to, you couldn't judge his personality, you couldn't interact with him. And I didn't want people to see him as just another patient. And I don't mean that cruelly, because we had incredible medical professionals, absolutely incredible. But I wanted every single one of them to know who Dallas was beforehand and how loved he is in the moment. Like, this is not just a next case. This is your best, most important case. And I think that having your parent with you or somebody else who loves you desperately with you is critical, because you can't advocate for yourself. You had to trust that your mom could do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a couple of different posters with pictures of MacKenzie doing various activities she enjoyed. We had a door that we just kept pictures on of her various things that you enjoyed doing. Mm-hmm. Goats. She was a big into goats at that time. Mm-hmm. Wanted to sneak goats into the hospital. So yes, we were the same way. She's not just a person laying in the bed right now. This is our daughter, and this is who she is and what she loves to do and where she was and where she wants to get back to.
I would say, actually, going on that, back to the question earlier, that was something really important that my family did. They filled that room gets real ugly real quick. So they did fill the room with some color and some pictures and some art and some encouragement. There were posters people had decorated, cards people had made, and they put those around the room. And that just made the place feel homier. There were flowers and bears and whatever. I don't know, the things that people sent, and they just threw them up in the room, which I really appreciated.
Another glimmer that I think of, the nurses at the hospital, I believe they did this at the floors. They would make those banners with your name. They would make their names in big bubble letters. And so the banner would go across either the door or the window. That would be, they had it and it was different colors. Do you remember that? I had pictures of it a couple different times. And then also the tie blankets. When she was in the ICU bay, there was a nurse, Jamie, who was assigned to her. She had two nurses assigned to her, and they had a tie blanket that the ladies would make and bring to the floors. There was a blue blanket on her. And Jamie came up, and she was still in a coma at this time, and brought this colorful tie-dye blanket. And she said, this seems like it would fit her personality better. And it was just super sweet because, again, she's in a coma. You don't know her, but you know her. And she just made sure that she had this special blanket that really did represent you and your vibrant personality. And it was super sweet. And then later on, when MacKenzie was down on the floor, she came down to see her. And I have a sweet picture of her just sitting by MacKenzie's bedside, talking to her and sharing how proud she was of you and all the things you were doing. So that was super sweet.
We really did have the best nurses. Mm-hmm. And I think specifically with that, there was a couple different situations like that where people came back later on in my experience. I appreciated that because then I had the memory of them versus just the picture. I mean, both was helpful, but I didn't have any memory of Jamie prior to her coming back to my room because the entire time that she was taking care of me at first, I was out. Similarly, the nurse from came and visited later. I have that visual memory of him and the people in those early days that really saved my life and are the reason that we even made it there. We just had the best nurses. Nurses are just amazing.
That speaks so well of both of you and your whole family, right? Because I don't know what it is about somebody in a coma where the medical professionals around them know who they are. This is something I will never understand because I don't work in that area, but I would hear this a lot from people saying, I could just tell. Something just emanates from you, but then to have your advocate saying, this is our daughter. This is somebody who's special and has these skills and these gifts and these kindnesses. It's so amazing because the nurses are serving the whole family.
Yeah.
And I mean, nurses, man, they just make the world go round. They are incredible.
They are.
That was honestly another big glimmer to me. You talk about being in the hospital and the nurses that serve the family. That was my experience. And I'm sure, like many, going home was very hard. That transition home when you don't have these nurses constantly around and taking care of you. Being in the hospital, everything in the outside world was kind of slowed down. Nothing really mattered than what was going on inside that room. It was the closest my family has ever been. Everybody was happy. Everybody was joyous. Like, it puts life into perspective. So nothing else really matters than what's going on right here in this room right now and the people in this room. And going home and transitioning back into life post hospital, post rehab, back into our world was really hard. Being in the hospital was really the easiest part of the journey for me in a lot of ways because of the nurses, because of my family, because having people with me 24/7, not having to work, not having to go to school, not having any of this stuff. And the real work in my situation came when we left. But the hospital just in itself was a glimmer in my story, just in the last 10 years of this experience.
It was very safe.
Yeah.
Very safe.
And you were 17.
I did say 16.
You mess this up every time.
I do.
You're just a baby.
I have the TBI, but
She has the TBI. I have the trauma from it. Together, I can't keep it straight.
I was 17. It happened in 2016.
There's our number.
And I always have to say that to her. Anyway, it was like making my eye twitch.
So, MacKenzie, you were 17 when this happened, and life outside of a hospital at 17 moves fast. People are falling in and out of love, and they're getting driver's license, and they're passing tests, and they're thinking about prom. And that is a fast-paced time in a person's life, those last couple years of high school. And for you to miss a big chunk of that and then reintegrate, that had to have been exciting and awful. And I wonder where you found some glimmers and some support. And I know that's not really our topic today because we're supposed to stay closer to when you're in the hospital, but I am curious about when you went home, some of those glimmers that you found outside of your immediate family.
Not many. I mean, it was hard. It was really, really hard. And a lot of my relationships with peers changed. I had my best friend from high school, from elementary, who is still in my life. I think of her and her family came and visited at the hospital very often. And on the night of prom, because we had plans to go together and obviously could not go to prom, she came and sat at the hospital and we hung out. And like, she would come and sit with me. But if people weren't willing to come and be still and sit by my hospital bed, we didn't see each other for 6 to 9 months during that year until I was back in public school. For people that didn't show up, I just didn't really see them for a long time and kind of forgot about them until I was back in school. There were a lot of people that would reach out, and life does keep moving. People had sports. People were doing college visits. It was my junior year of high school. I had just went on college visits. So people, my peers, were preparing for that next phase of life. There were also a lot of people that really loved me and cared about me, but just couldn't show up. Their support looked different, and it was more from a distance or in different ways.
It's very gracious of you to recognize that the world was all about you for your folks at that time. Like the person in the trauma, like, what do you mean there's prom? What do you mean there's other things? But it's very gracious of you. If you could offer some advice to other young people who maybe their friends or a sibling is in that situation, who's a middle school, high school age person, what might you invite them to think about or do to support somebody they love that's in the hospital like that?
I would say to show up for people and show up for their families. I think it can be very easy. Somebody that you're used to seeing every day at school or practice or whatever it is that suddenly isn't around anymore because they're in the hospital, and it's easy to forget about them, or things get busy. You're doing homework. It's the flow of being in high school, but they are still alive. They are still around. It can really make a difference in making somebody feel like they aren't completely alone, because I know the people that I didn't see at all during that time. And it did make me question down the road our friendship and our relationship. So I think just the biggest advice is just to show up for people and their families, because there were people that didn't necessarily have the capacity to come and be there in person, but they still showed up and supported my family in different ways. And I still heard about it, and I still knew about it, and I still got to feel the love and warmth from that.
One of Dallas's multiple birthdays that he spent in the hospital, I put out in my social media, like, his birthday's coming up, send a card, because people don't have the time. They don't have the bandwidth. Our hospitals that he was in were all over the country. Like, people couldn't be flying around everywhere. And so we tried to give them opportunities to participate within what we thought they had the capacity to do. One time I put out there, okay, send me a link to a song that would mean something between you and my son. And I'll play it for him and I'll say, oh, this is from Jim. And anything like that, because it's so isolating.
Mm-hmm.
Those are great ideas. I love that. I love the
Yeah.
music one, because music can mean so much.
We got some songs on there from some of Dallas's friends are just hilarious, and I've known him a long time. One who's just a sweetheart. Hey, Zach. He sent a song and he said, play this for him and do not listen to the lyrics. You will not like them. And I was like, wow. It was a little nuts.
Oh, I love it. I love the pure honesty about it.
Anything that would make him laugh was something I was in for. If somebody wanted to tell him a dirty joke or send him a song that would make him laugh, like 100%, I don't know what, that's not funny to me. Great, let's do this. So,
Yeah.
MacKenzie, we could talk to you forever because you're the best. We like to share a little resource or a tidbit that might help somebody else. Did you have a suggestion for what might be helpful?
Yeah, something that has been very beneficial for me post-injury is joining Facebook groups with other brain injury survivors and being a part of as many virtual spaces with other survivors as I can. I actually got this resource from a Facebook group that I was in, and it is a brain injury identification card. There's a law firm that creates these for brain injury survivors to have in your wallet if you ever get pulled over, get stopped by the police, get in a situation where somebody needs to be contacted or where you can't communicate. You can just give this to somebody and it has your emergency contact, emergency phone number. It just has symptoms of a brain injury on the back. I can be a little wobbly sometimes or have shaky speech. And sometimes those symptoms can be associated with being under the influence or on drugs, but this can communicate to a police officer and I can tell them about my brain injury. I haven't had to use this yet, thankfully, but I'm very excited to have this now for travel, especially now that I'm an adult and when I'm alone. And it's in my wallet with my ID. If you go to brainlaw.com, you will find there the info.
Great. We'll put that in the show notes too.
Cool.
Awesome. Amanda, before we get to our closing quote of the day, this is a very vulnerable conversation for both of you and MacKenzie. How did it feel to hear the memories that she had?
A lot of these things we've talked about, I think, through time, trying to help her piece things together. I think as parents and caregivers, especially when it happens to them so young, we just wish we could take all the pain away. Trying to figure out what to do, how to put one foot in front of the other is such a challenge. We even had a conversation today. What advice can you give somebody else? What could I have done better? What could I have done more? What can somebody else do We don't always get it right. I can't even get her age right. My brain has not been the same since the accident in 2016, just because of the trauma of it all. When I'm walking through those days, I was not well. As caregivers, I wasn't taking care of myself. How do we support caregivers to take better care of themselves so that then they can take better care of the ones that they love?
Mm-hmm. That's the advice right there. Because you did crash and burn at one point.
When I got sick in the hospital, that was not pretty. Mind you, it was the night before her brain flap replacement. I'm trying to hold it together. And finally, I'm like, MacKenzie, I can't do this anymore. It was so bad.
Sound the alarms.
So off to the hospital I went with a police escort.
If that doesn't make you laugh now, you're just doing it wrong. Like,
oh my gosh.
Of course you did.
Of course I did. Gosh. And then I get down there and they're like, we're going to give you morphine. And I'm like, oh no, I need to make medical decisions for my daughter. I can't be on morphine. And they're like, lady, do you know what's going on inside your body? And I'm like, oh yeah, she's having surgery today. And they're like, mm-mm.
It will be a separate episode to talk about the shame and grief and guilt involved in being the parent. There was so much shame about needing to sleep. There was shame about being hungry. There was guilt, like, how am I not strong enough to go 60 days without a proper night of sleep? I was ashamed that I didn't have more strength and more fortitude. I look back at that, that's bananas. I would never think that for another person. But it's really hard to take care of yourself. And that's something that we can try to support other caregivers with. And people did say that stuff to me. It's not like nobody thought that I needed a shower or needed to eat, but I don't know. People thought I needed a shower, Amanda, but I don't know how we deliver that message to people that they need self-care in a way that is at all believable. And maybe that's what beds in the hospital, like the guest beds in the hospital, are for. Like, we're not going to leave. You might as well just give us a place to sleep. Just do us a favor.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I literally was in the basement of the University of Michigan Hospital because, of course, they had no rooms. I was in a room with 8 other people. And, it was a mess. Like, I can't be here. I got to be there. And I can't be there when the kid's at home and the husband, like, that's another episode. But guilt and shame for a long time.
Yeah.
Guilt and shame that you don't deserve.
Right.
And we'll get to that. Okay. Whew.
Hey, I got a quote.
Give us a quote.
I got a quote by Brene Brown. Joy collected over time fuels resilience, ensuring we'll have reservoirs of emotional strength when hard things do happen.
So definitely, MacKenzie, I want to thank you so much for your willingness to talk and share and your vulnerability. And I want to commend your incredible recovery and going for and getting the life that you wanted, a mother and a wife, and you wanted to have the life that you'd always pictured for yourself, and you worked really hard and you got there, and that's amazing. And I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
And you look exactly like your mom, and you guys have all the same facial expressions.
Wild. I know. It's really wild.
We are the same person. It is so frightening.
I love it.
It was something this morning, and we're like, we're the same. There it is.
Yeah, you two are darling. Wow. If this episode resonated with anybody at home, or if there's somebody that you think would benefit from it, please share it with them. Very much appreciate you liking and subscribing to our pod on YouTube, or check it on our website, Spotify, Apple, anywhere that you can get your downloads. And of course, our Facebook group, Neuromoms Collective, is available. Amanda, thank you so much.
And yes, thank you, Erin. And remember, find those glimmers and keep the lights on.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.